He is Sideshow Bob trying to get out of like the rakes like littered around him, like every single agency telling him, warning him. Early January, ugh, that one really hurts.
Hmm.
And it's like you appointed all of these sycophants to absolutely like be total brown nosers, tell you that you're right or whenever you're wrong, and they're still warning you. Like, if they've broken the like, kowtow barrier, that like something is actually up.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here's the thing. Like, and I will say this. I was saying this, by the way. If you go back and you watch our early coronavirus videos, I kept saying there was no scenario where people were not going to die. And the fact that some people would die is not Donald Trump's fault. The issue was that he waited. When he finally did something, the only thing he did was limit some travel, generally from countries that he's been trying to limit the travel from anyway. He keeps referring to that as if that was the only thing that needed to be done, and that he should be given credit despite the fact that over 500,000 people in America have coronavirus. That was never going to be enough. What you needed to do was start as early as possible to start stockpiling personal protective equipment, ventilators, and testing kits, and start distributing them to each city, if possible, to regional distribution centers, if necessary, so that when it did get here, inevitably, you would be able to respond as quickly as possible, and you wouldn't have situations where doctors were starting to independently come to the realization that coronavirus had hit their area, but they weren't authorized to actually test for it, nor were they given the tests necessary to actually do so. And you could have planned preemptively for social distancing measures to be authorized nationwide. Now, he can't force states to do that, but he could put pressure on them. He could certainly advise Republicans to do so, which would almost certainly have been successful. He
Right.
could have done all of that, and that would have drastically limited how many people needed to die. These are not impossible to come up with scenarios. He was being advised about all of this. It was 100% possible, and those 23,000 dead Americans, that number could be far, far lower.
Yeah. And I think the real thing for me is his fixation on the economy and how the economy was going to take a hit. And this is the problem with running your country like a business. It's the problem with surrounding yourself with Wall Street executives and former Wall Street folks who only care about stock portfolios, is that yes, there is a coming economic crisis. There is no way around that. So what do you do? How do you deal with it? How do you plan to have a country and a government that is responsible to people and preserving human lives and taking care of them, and also making sure your economy doesn't tank? Well, now we basically have both. Why? Because workers can't actually go out and do their jobs because people are being they're losing their jobs, 17 million of whom have already applied for unemployment insurance. Meanwhile, in countries like Europe and other countries who have more of a social safety net, who have more planning, who don't base everything around the fallacy of the stock market and how well it's doing, they're actually way better because they have more of a planned economy and just more of a plan generally.